Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to recap a 1984 romance film named Purely Physical. So let's begin. Kathy is a student who is interested in taking an extra gig as a motel attendant. She rides her bicycle as she remembers what she had filled in her application form. She fills in her name, her sex, her school, and her educational background, including her elementary school and high school. She writes that she is presently a student of the Department of Art and of Journalism, and her hobby is writing. She changes her mind, saying writing isn't necessarily a hobby, but her profession is a journalist, so she can't write that her hobby is writing. She changes her hobby to writing. She rides to the motel, and she rings the visitor's bell. She meets a man in the motel and tells him she's looking for the owner of the motel, Vance, who has asked her to visit for an interview on that day. The man tells her he is Vance and he is the motel owner. He asks her if she is with her form, and he stands to meet her and he checks the form. He asks her the first interview question, which is if she is not a hooker. She wonders why he will ask her such a question, but he tells her that the last person he employed was a hooker who had just wanted to use the job to cover her works, so he doesn't want such attendant again. He sees that she is a writer and a student, so he tells her he will employ her, and she is to work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. She is excited to hear this, and she asks him when she should resume. She happily goes home and removes her bag on the chair, and after freshening up, she returns to the motel to start her duty. She sits in anticipation of her first visitor, and a few minutes after, she receives her first client. A young boy who calls himself Lincoln comes to her. She attends to him, and he tells her he wants a room. She asks if he is alone, but he claims that he is with his wife. She inquires if she should give him a 2-bedroom or a 1-bedroom, but he says the 1-bedroom will be better. She requests that he signs his form, and after he does that, she gives him the key to his room, room 40. She tells him the room is $32, and he gives a broke look like he doesn't have enough. He dusts off all his pockets, bringing out all the money he has to pay for the room, after which he collects his key and goes out. On his way, after attending to him, she goes to write in her book. She writes that she has gotten her first customer, and Lincoln looks like he is about 17 to 18 years, and the lady looks like the same age. However, Lincoln looks courageous, and she is sure he will be confident in bed, since she has assumed it is the first time the couple is making out. She claims Lincoln will be courageous, and he will have strength, but she feels the girl will be shy. In the room, Lincoln and his girlfriend hug, and he tells her he is glad they have time to themselves without fear of someone pointing the touch. She tells him she wants to use the toilet, and when she is away, he removes his clothes and practices how he will handle her on the bed. When she arrives, she tells him she wants to see his cock. He tells her it is not hard yet, but he insists, so she takes her hands toward his boxers and touches it. She removes the top of her dress. He puts her on the bed, where they hug and kiss, before he removes all her clothes and penetrates into her body. She tells him to take it slow, but he does otherwise and releases. He sleeps, and when he wakes, he sees her beside his cock. Kathy receives her customer, a man of his youthful age, who seems like he knows all the rooms in the motel. He tells her to give him the key to room 22. And when she asks why he wants that room, he says he has used all the rooms in that motel, and that room is his best. He asks her when she resumed working at the motel, and she tells him it was the day before. He asks her if she is busy, saying that he visits the motel at least once in a week. She can ride with him, but she tells him she is busy and she doesn't have time. But he insists she will occasionally have such times, and he thinks that night can be one of the occasions, but she refuses again. He leaves the reception, telling her later a man, Charlie, who loves old movies, comes with a young lady. He keeps talking about old movies every time, and she pretends to love it too. They take a room with a single bed, and when they get to the room, Charlie removes his to sleep. The lady goes to the bathroom, And when she comes out, she tells him that she actually doesn't like old movies. She only accepts to like it because that's what he loves to talk about, and she loves him so much that she is madly in love with him. She asks if he can't feel her love and asks if he wants to touch her nipple. She asks to touch his cock and she sucks him. She smacks his ass, which he stops, and the following day, she takes his money and leaves. That day, Kathy receives another customer, a woman named Claire. Claire says she has a reservation, and Kathy gives her room. Claire goes to her room and undresses. Kathy arrives to give her coffee, and she asks Kathy to drink too. She says she thinks she is like Kathy, and she likes to take her fun wherever she goes. She asks Kathy if she has ever considered making out with a woman and tries to kiss Kathy. Also, Kathy stops her and leaves. Kathy writes in her journal that Claire almost got her, and she wishes to make out with Claire. In the room, Claire touches herself. Claire continues touching herself in the room, and she uses a mirror as she touches herself. She gets horny and bites her pillow to get better until she eventually gets satisfied. Kathy receives another customer, Wick. She notices he doesn't look great, and she asks him if she is okay. He claims his friend Bonnie had just asked the same question, and he thinks he doesn't look fine. He asks her for his room reservation, and she gives him the key to his room, room 33. After he enters his room, Kathy receives another visitor's two hookers, and they tell her they are looking for Wick's room. She's concerned that Wick didn't say he is expecting a visitor, but they tell her they are from Bonnie, so she gives them the room number. She later finds out they had brought a sheriff's car, and she confronts them in Wick's room, claiming the motel is respectable. But Wick says the girls are respectable too and asks her to leave. He claims he only wants to watch the girls touch each other, but watching becomes unbearable for him, and he joins them. They have a threesome where they each other. Meanwhile, Kathy thinks about her former action. She says she thinks she has to learn to be more tolerant, and she is learning more on the job. Later, a woman asks two of her tennis players if they are available that evening. She tells them she would like them at the motel, and the first man who jumps at the idea goes to tell his colleague, who eventually accepts the idea. They all go to Kathy's motel that evening, and she asks them if they want a room with 2 beds or 1. They ask for a room with 2 beds, and she gives them the key. As they enter the room, the woman takes one of the men and starts her operation with him. Outside the room, Kathy thinks of what they could be doing. She imagines if a woman can excite 2 men and says the idea excites her, and she wishes she is invisible so she could go to the room and watch. She imagines herself to be invisible, and she goes there. This makes her horny. So later, she receives a visit from the customer. She agrees to wake him the next day, and by morning, she goes to his room to wake him and tell him she is leaving work soon and that he should do something about it. He makes out with her. She leaves work and goes home, and the movie ends here. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to subscribe our channel. I see you soon.